Hi everyone, welcome back into the channel. What I'm going to do today is it's time for us to go back over to a seascape. We do seascapes, landscapes, birds, animals. I'm working on a big moose, portraits, flowers, lots of flowers. You name it, we do it. But today we're going to go back to a seascape. And what I'm going to do along this lesson, it'll be a little longer lesson. I'm going to go into more in depth about some of the stuff I do. I'm also going to show you some ways in which you modify your acrylics to get different effects. How to slow it down to like a 4-hour drying time, how to slow it down 30 minutes, and some of the different effects that you can get, transparency, glazing, that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you that in this video. Now, what I have to do with this is Point Sur, and you can see I have a couple of reference photos I have up there. One that I got from Adobe, the other one I got from Wikipedia, but there's, and a few years ago, 6 years ago, in one of my classes, my seminars, I did a real quick 30-minute painting here. This is Point Sur that I did 11 by 14, and I showed them how to basically use Faux Medium. Faux Medium is a medium, and there's a couple of seascapes on the channel, if you want to go look them up, that I use Faux Medium for. It makes fantastic waves here and clouds. You can see these kind of dreamy clouds. Faux Medium, which is a medium that slows down the drying time, but it's also thick. It's like a gel. So I used that with this and a palette knife and painted this whole thing basically with a palette knife. And it's a really, really fun technique. Well, I have a commission I got to do of Point Sur, and so I thought, well, you know what? Let's film it for you guys so you can see some of this stuff. And I'm going to put a little bit more into this because this is a commission piece. And what I'm going to have here, this is a board that I have. It's a regular 1/4 inch oak ply that I use, and it is 24 inches this way, 16 inches this way. That takes it into a little bit more of a landscape. You can use an 18 by 24, which is a very popular standard size, and just add a little bit more to the sky, add a little bit more to the ocean in the back, and you got it. But out here on Point Sur, there's actually, when you look at some of the photos and stuff, there's actually the lighthouse and stuff that you see up there. I didn't do it in this one. This was a real quick painting. I didn't do it in this one, but we might, depending on how things go, we might be able to use that, today. So I'm going to show you how to build waves, some rocks. We're going to use some different types of techniques to paint that shoreline and stuff like that. One of the things I do want to show you about, and I've already thickened this up. See, this is my burnt sienna. This is my yellow oxide, which I have out here. And whenever I'm going to do some palette knife techniques or techniques where I want to get some textures in, I usually thicken up my acrylics just a bit, okay? And so I'm going to show you what I did to that burnt sienna, at least some of my earth colors. So here is a yellow oxide, okay? And it's a thicker acrylic, but it also has a great stroking ability. And so, but I want to be able to use it with a palette knife here to do some thicker techniques. So I use this. This is that we make with the line. It's made actually by Derivan, but it's called a rheology modifier, okay? And it doesn't add anything to the paint, but it's going to thicken it up. So for that amount of paint, maybe just a little drop like this, maybe even just half of that. Let's just a little drop. And you mix that into the paint, and it'll immediately thicken it up. It modifies what is called the rheology of the paint without going into too much chemistry for you. I love chemistry. I was a chemist for so many years. And so you can see it immediately thickens up the paint. And the more you just kind of whip it up for about a minute or so is what it'll take to whip it up really good. Now my yellow oxide is quite a bit thicker here. It'll match some of the stuff that I'm going to do up over here. So I'll put that right up here. And so why do I thicken it up? Whenever I do palette knife techniques and stuff, I like to thicken the colors up, okay? Now, it does not, the rheology modifier does not adjust the drying time of the paint. So it's still going to dry as an acrylic, which is what I want. But sometimes I like to slow that paint down. If I'm going to work something for quite a long time, I like to slow that paint down quite a bit. And so you could use open medium, or you can use, like I show you in so many videos, the extender medium. The extender medium is a medium that is thins, you know, a lot of times thins the paint because it's thinner. So you see me in all the other videos, I use extender medium, and then when I go to a thicker area, I use the open medium. But sometimes, like when I'm painting waves or clouds or something like that, I like the extender medium because I always tell you in the videos, the extender medium slides. The open medium is a bit sticky and grabs on your brush. And so what I do, you know me, I like to make stuff. And this is what I love. And I made this whole container about a year ago, and it's taken me a year to use this. But what this is just gelled extender, see? It's just gelled extender. So what I do is I take my extender medium right here, I pour it into this little thing here, and then I added, about poured in here and added maybe half a teaspoon of the rheology modifier, that thickener, and made myself thick extender. And so when I paint with this, you can see it's absolutely clear. You can leave this out on your palettes for months and it will not dry. Okay, it is extremely slow drying, but it's great, you know, for doing some of those real, if you want to get some texture, you want to work on it for a while, so it slows the drying time way down. Sometimes on portraits, I pre-mix that into my colors and leave my portrait colors, and then I can paint on that portrait on the side of the face and, you know, working and softening halftones and stuff like that for hours and hours because its extender doesn't dry. But I use it sometimes for different effects. For, you know, if I want something, I'm a thin, thick painter. I like thin colors, thick colors, and I like to adjust those what I have. With the Heritage, there's 1,000 ways to do this stuff, guys, 1,000 ways. And what the company does is they give you, as the artist, all different kinds of ways to adjust not only the thickness, the consistency, the thickness, the drying time, the texturing of your colors. You can control it because every artist is a little different, and it's a lot of fun. So I'll show you some of that as we go. And then you also have just Faux Medium and the regular open medium, which is great too, because you see me paint all the time with the open medium. That's what I have out here. So now I have a real clear, very slick, very slippery, and then this one is also very slow drying and a little sticky to it, and it makes it feel different. The paint comes off your brush a little different with each one. Everybody's different, and that's what we like. Okay, all right. So I put out a quick sketch. I just used my big pencil here, and I sketched out some ideas of what I want to do. Let's get into our painting here, okay? Okay, so I'm going to grab like a 3/4 inch brush here, my Fusion long-handled, and I love what I did on the original one. I made that gray and stuff that I have to the sky, but I'm thinking more along the lines of some of these other colors that go from a gray to a violet. And so the first thing I'm going to do is come in there and set the sky and set the horizon line. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a light, kind of a light violet. So blue, the violet here, and white. Let's make ourselves a light blue violet here. I usually like to, when I start my skies, get it up there around an 8, a value 8 or something like that. And, you know, so I can, you know, put that atmosphere into there. So I'm going to add some some extender to this. This is my extender. I'm adding the extender. This will thin it out. This will also give me some longer drying time here. Now that's just a touch dark, but I'm going to go ahead and use it here. And I'm going to start the sky. And this is what I like, is when a bit of some of the other blues, when you don't mix real well and some of the other colors come off in through here, that just gives you such great atmosphere. And so I want that. I'm going to go down. I'll thin it out just a bit here. And I'm going to go down below that horizon line there just a bit. I'm even going to go into the mountains. And so I don't use big long strokes. I use a lot of like little X's and stuff here. And what that does is that helps put in this, and it's kind of hard, the cameras can't always pick it up. When you look at it, you get all kinds of movements of your colors and stuff, and that's what I want. is some of that movement. And I want nice paint. I want to paint with a lot of paint today. When I do commissions work and stuff like that, is I really like to use a lot of paint as I'm working it out here for a couple of reasons. This, paint adds the interest, but it also adds these textures that are just fantastic. When somebody walks up to the painting and see it, they see these textures. So here I'll push some of this. Now I'm going to probably, push some clouds in there. I want a bit of that nice phthalo in there and some of that sky there, though. See, I like that. I'd leave something like that happens. I used to be so precise and perfect, and then when I started studying Impressionism, I really loosened up. And it's grab a bunch of paint and toss it on there. And you're not going to be able to copy really anything that I do, and I can't copy myself either, but it'll, get you going here now. Oh, here it is. Now, usually what I do, I'm going to set that horizon line. And in the original one, I was more gray. I'm going to make this one a little bit more colorful. And so I'm going to grab some of my phthalo here. Pretty close in value, but more phthalo. We might even add a bit of this gel kind of extender in there. A little bit of my violet here. So I'm going to get a slight difference. Now I'm going to go right below the Point Sur lighthouse here. And I'm just going to draw this line here. And I don't want it to be absolutely precise because I'm going to blur this horizon line here. But that'll put on the horizon there for the water. And then we'll start to pull out here. So this is just a ruler I took from the Home Depot, you can see there, and then I just cut it. I have a big long one for long landscapes and a shorter one for short landscapes. It's just a couple bucks. You put it and glue them together, and it works really well for, some people use tape and stuff, which I've showed before as well, but I do just like to use that, especially if I'm going to do a blurred one like this one. I want it blurred, so I like to use just the edge of that board there. Now, got that blue just a bit high, and I'm going to pinch wipe my brush here, pick up some of this violet and stuff that we have here. And I'm basically going to blur that line. We'll let some of the violet, some of that atmosphere creep into some of my strokes here. Don't take too long, big, long ones. That puts too much horizontal interest in. Now we might adjust that, but colors, this is the thing, guys. Acrylics dry darker, so if you think that you're right about where you want to be, that's where you stop, because you don't want to get it too dark, because it's going to dry just a touch darker. So you can see now I can put some fog and mist along there. I like that violet that's in there. That works really well. Maybe I'm going to take some of this. Let's add, you could use open medium, you can do this. Each one has a different feel, a different look to it, and I show you all different kinds of ways. You could use that faux medium, when you do that. And just watch this. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a bit of this gelled extender that I made here. Faux medium works really well as well. But see, I'll push that right along here like that. See that gelled extender gives you some interest, like some clouds and stuff like that, without really building that cloud here too much. Now, I'm going to put it on here with my knife. That's going to give me some interest there. And then I'm going to wipe my brush. And what I do is I'll come through and just soften through like this. So I like that kind of bumpy, the movement that the knife and some of that medium gives it there, see? But I like also the ability just to soften that out a bit. Now let's just take a tiny bit more blue, maybe right in here. And so we'll push just some edges here of some blue. Let's thin that just a bit. When you thin it, it doesn't have quite as much power. So we'll thin just a bit of that blue. So what we have coming in here is we have these violet kind of clouds coming in here and some blues of the ocean and stuff picking up there, okay? And I could make more contrast and stuff in there, but I'm not really sure because, you know, we got a long ways to go in this painting and we want to drive this interest all the way to the front. But I could go, since I'm up here with an 8, let's thin some of this a bit. And let's just streak. So I'll use, you know, a different way, you know, between some of my layers. If I'm painting a commission piece, I want to get a lot of interest. And so I switch my tools off. So this brush will give me a little different look than what my knife did here. And I can add just a little bit more. So to see I use the different corners and stuff. It's that interest that comes in there. Let's pinch wipe that color out of that brush and just lightly, just barely touching the surface, pull through here. And this can give some direction to the clouds. You can whisper them down, movement there. So that puts on just this real soft, without adding shadows or any of that other kinds of stuff, puts on this soft kind of misty clouds, you know, like when you look at some of those other ones up back, oh, you can't really see it, or back up over here, you get some of that real soft kind of misty look. Now, if I want to pop them out even more, I can do that. I don't have to do it right now. If I want to soften that line, we can just take a bit of that cloud color right like that and soften that back horizon line so that ocean disappears back there. It's really a lot of fun. Okay, now let's come back in. We'll take some of this violet. We'll add, I love painting the sand with violets and yellows. Let's put in some yellow oxide. I like to get this thicker stuff here. And some of this, and we'll just drop that sand spit right in there. This is my 3/4 inch brush. Okay, so I'm going to use this 3/4 inch brush. Now I'm going to pull that out into that water a bit there. And any kind of slight fracturing of the edges and stuff that I get, I'll just leave that. I want that. Let's add a bit of white. Model that up a bit. Pull through. Maybe just a touch of the burnt sienna. So what I'm doing is just making some different colors through here, right up through there. So I get some different tonal changes right up there. That's what I'm looking for. Now sometimes, you know, of course that's way in the back, but sometimes I do that with my knife. I love to do that. Just once you get this, just pick up some of that and just grab your knife and just pull it like that through there. And it's a different, you know, it feels different than the brush. Every one of us is different as an artist, and we all have different hand pressures, you know, and that every one of us will slightly do a little bit different technique. Some will find some easier, some will, you know, like to use the knife, some will like to use the brush, you know, and we're all different, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Now I'm going to put in some really light, maybe even a little more yellow here. So model that up a bit lighter and drop in some really light touches right in there like that. See, and I'm going to leave, that's where I leave some of this in there. So that's interest, see? And as long as it's pulling along the length of the beach, you're good to go. Now you can pull at a slight angle down to give your beach a slope or something, but as long as it's just like that, you're you know, really good to go. So like when you look at what I did here, you know, I put the darks and the lights, and then I'm quite dark with my ocean and stuff right in here, which, you know, is what happened on that other photo, but up here they're not quite. But I think I'm going to go back to that again. We're going to take some blue and some violet here. Let's add some extender here first. We'll put it on kind of thin here. Okay, yeah, that's a beautiful color up in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'll thin this with extender. So I'm a thin, thick painter, okay? I'll thin this out with extender. So my yellow in there is on thicker. This is coming in nice and thin here. So it doesn't have as much power. And I'll just stroke a bit of this back through here. Just a bit. And then I'll pull here. And the yellow, it will stop real quick at that yellow, because the yellow has a lot of power there. But that can help me make some of this transparent look. Now, I can push in there to soften that, but if the thing is if you push too much, you'll blend it, and we don't want to blend it, okay? And because that will destroy our look. So I'm going to thin this out over here, and I'm going to pull some of it real thin color, right up like that. Maybe, and see if I leave just a few short strokes of it, it'll look like little waves and stuff like that out there. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to go to a 1/2 inch brush here. I can go back with like a 1/2 inch, slightly different one here, and push that right along in there. Little burnt sienna, little yellow, right in there. See, and pull some of that interest in there. And, you know, along that little beach and rock areas there. Let's pick up a bit more of that light yellow, thicker yellow oxide. Thicker colors, when I lay these on this, thicker colors, so it takes out, see, it gives me that nice beach color there. Takes out some of that other color there. And, yeah, that works. A little bit more yellow. So I'm looking at just the interest my little brush marks are making right along there, see? And paint that in. So when you step back like that, you get a nice look to it. Now what's really going to give us our nice look here, let's rinse that brush out here for a second. And we'll go, I don't need to rinse it out really good because I'm going to paint the shoreline. And I do want to have just a touch of the yellows in there. Let's take some of this violets and some of this. Now this is where I'll use Faux Medium. Faux Medium works great. I'm going to show you the gel today here, but also the open medium. You can take a little bit of both. You know, I like to try all different kinds of things. And we'll pull that way, right like that, to start in some of that light color. But we'll start it with the violet here first. Then I'll pick it up a little bit heavier, touch more white here, and we'll add just little edges of that light there, just like that for some of that wave line. Now, I'll back paint in. This is one of the things I like to do, is I come back this way and I back paint in, taking out just a bit of the wave here that I want. Just slow, slow. Don't go fast, just go slow. And it lifts off, and see, I lifted off some of that extra white there. Sometimes I'll take that and drop that back here like there's another little wave starting up back there like that. Maybe a bit of the edge of it there. Try not to make it too smooth because it's way out there in the back, see? So you just kind of push and break that. Don't make a straight line. Kind of push and break that. And now what I'll do is, so you step back and look at that. Now that camera 1, is at 8 feet. So those of you that paint with me all the time know I like to paint pieces for the gallery and paint pieces of you about 8 feet. And so that looks pretty good right there. We'll see. You know, we'll see. We'll get some more stuff going in here. I want to take just a bit of the blue and just break that edge. Just a bit. That's a bit harsh. So see, I'll break that. That softens that. Takes you back up here. And if I have maybe some of that blue right in through here. So I'm looking at the waves here. So I can add little touches of darker color in there if I want to get just a touch more interest. Now, let's grab some of our thicker yellow. I'll grab the thin stuff there. Let's grab a little green, a little burnt sienna here. Nice thick burnt sienna. Boy, that just slides with that gel or with that thickener in there. Okay. And maybe a bit of our blue. We're going to come in here and we'll start and see, I want this model. See how this model's off of my brush here? those colors, see how they all come out differently? That's where it gets real pretty. So when you're mixing, not mixing, when you're putting the colors into your brush here, don't thicker. Don't mix around too much because it'll go too heavy. Let's put it up a little higher here, right up there like that. That's kind of nice. Let's get touch more yellow, maybe a yellow and a little bit of light as we get down here towards this beach right in there. That's what happens at that particular one. Let's get a bit more light in there. Right out there like that. There. There we go. Just like that. And then we'll get a little darker. There's a shadow almost to it here where the light is coming in this one of the photos that I'm looking at on this side. So this one sits a little bit more in shadow. And I want to do some broken edges here and color. So see, I'm using different corners. This is my little 1/2 inch brush, 1/2 inch fusion. And see, I just drag that along and let some of those colors stay where they are there, you know, and try not to touch them too many times because they'll start to blend together. So we want to lay this, we want to get into the color range. Now I want a little more green and yellow into that. So we want to get into the color families here. We don't want to do too much of the, and see, use different corners, but too much movement on it because then it'll all become the same. So I'm getting these different colors going here. Now on the point, it kind of pulls down. Let's add just a touch of blue into that here. So we get even like a little shadow onto there. And pull some of this down. But see, leave some of those colors. Now, I can break some of that edge here too. Just fracture that edge a bit with my finger. I could do it with a brush. And see how that little bit of a blur, that will help with the distance. Called lost edges. So I'm losing that edge just a bit. And I like to do that. That works pretty well. Sometimes you get it all over your finger. You can't forget to clean your finger. You know, wipe your finger here. But I do like to pull down into it and blur. See how it just blurs that edge a bit. So that's a little fine of a point. So now I'll just blur it just a touch and take that, and then that helps send that little area there, you know, further back. Now I like burnt sienna and blue for some rocks right along here. Some little rocks here, looks of rocks. Nice blue, burnt sienna right here. Sometimes I'll work in some other colors and stuff like that. Sometimes you might have a little light gray, even some of this violet light the light kind of touches a few areas there like that. You know, little edges of them. And let's pull some of that yellow stuff down here. Maybe a bit more of a horizontal stroke here, so we start leveling off our beach here. Down like that. And let's get some more of our beach. The yellow, I do like that violets, lights and violets into that. So we'll pull across just like this and let that kind of lift up the pressure and let that set that beach right in there. And we can, I'm just going to wipe the brush. I'm not even going to clean it. Just going to wipe the brush. Pick up a little edge of white right here. Pull that right along there. And maybe hit just a couple of edges there, like little waves. And if I need to, I can paint it into position with some dark blue. Lift it off with some of that dark blue right in there. So now you've got, look at that nice distance to that little hillside that's back there. Now, you know, on Point Sur, there is a, I was sitting there going, gosh, should I do this or not? You know, there is that tiny little lighthouse out there. And I just might, just for those people who know that it's there, I just might use just a corner of my brush and put in just a little indication of a shadow. Usually when I do, I need my little stick here. And it is kind of a big brush, but you know, this will keep you from doing too much detail here. When you paint something like that, you know, you're putting in just an impression of it, which is what I like to do. I'll just blur off that light there. There, like that. Just an impression of that. Oops, I know that's really small. It looks fantastic up close. Okay, so, all right, so let's keep on going on down. Now, I've got some great colors right here, and before they, you know, dry up on me here, I'm going to grab some light, push this in. See, this is all great color. I'll clean up some of my palette work here just a bit, and I'll look at that and I'll go, yeah, that's getting pretty close to a nice beach, maybe a bit more yellow. I could even use a tap or so of some of that color right in there. See, I like tapping with the edge of it. This is a big paint scraper, and I love painting with the paint scraper too. This is a 2-inch paint scraper, and I like tapping edges of it and stuff like that because it just adds a little bit more movement and interest to it. Let's get a touch more of our yellow into that. We'll do this a few times. I don't want to mix. I'm starting to get too much mixing. I like this, and I'm just going to pick that up, and let's just pull out across here like this to set in that first part of that beach. We'll go ahead and go out into the water a bit, and then I'll take off the extra paint here so I can paint the blue into that. But we'll leave this thicker stuff right up there like that. Here. We'll put some more colors in there too, some nice light sandy colors. This is just good. You know, some of you that paint some of the other seascapes with me on the channel, you know I like to just sometimes take these big movements like this and just put on paint, because paint drives your interest. And you know, here I don't have brush marks or anything. It's just, you know, it's just good paint. So let's take this yellow here and maybe just streak that a bit so I get just a bit of that. Now, that starts to blend or starts to mix together too much. I'm going to stop on that. And I'll take some of this. There's going to be some areas up here that are going to be pulled down from those hillsides there, so I'll just start some of that. And so I paint too much. I put too much on, and then I paint out. That's what I like to do. That's my favorite way, you know, of painting. Let's grab some of that burnt sienna here, thicker, some green, some yellow oxide again. Don't mix it all up. I'm going to thin this first. A little bit of extender into this here. And that's a bit mixed, so I'm going to toss in some more green and yellow here. So that's what I like. So I get some differences, some variations to it here. Boom, and I'll just loosen up these edges right up there. See, I want to leave those edges kind of fractured up there, so it's not real perfect here. It's really off on. Hold your brush very flat. You could do this with a knife as well. Now see, I touched that too much. I just wanted to show you how to do that. Don't touch it that much. Let's get some of that burnt sienna stuff here. Some of these are going to come back the other way here. You have lots of reference photos to get some ideas. But see, I leave this kind of mottled, and it's going to start looking like, you know, other hills and stuff like that in there. You know, and you do it really simplistically. You see, with mine, it's just, I did here, just very simplistically. You don't need to really get too wrapped up and stuff. Let's just pick up some of this. We'll pull a nice movement of that, slight angle with that. I'll go right into that yellow a bit, fracture that edge. It's going to look like a little beach edge there by the time we go back and forth. So I'm going to go back and forth several times there. Okay, and so as I go back and forth there, it's going to be great. Let's take some thicker yellow, some of this green, some of these colors. So it's not real mixed up here, so I can get some variation here as I come out this way. See, I pull for just a little bit and then turn my brush and use a different part of it here as I'm painting on some of this. So I get some of these different colors coming off of here. That's what I want. This is the impression of it. This, to me, is the fun way to paint. Now I'm going to pull some down to create that slope here, down towards the little beach that we'll paint there. Okay. Some of this will push up into that slope here. Some of this I'll just model through here. There we go. So I just love painting impression of it without, trying to paint the realism of it. What I do with my eye when I look at it is I break it into lights and darks and movement. That's what I'm seeing here. Lights and darks and movements. And let's take a little burnt sienna right in there with that. Ooh, I like that touch of burnt sienna. It's a bit powerful, but boy, I do like that. Let's take that off just a bit. Get a bit of that in there. So watch the angles of your brush. So if I want to create like a little cliff, I go up and down here now, and I create like the little edge of the beach there. Okay. And we'll take just a bit more green and yellow here. Right up there like that. Pull down just a bit for some of that cliff edge there. That looks pretty good. Let's keep going here. Lighter kind of color. Yellows. Here, get some of that. Let's get some of that burnt sienna in there as well. See, that just breaks up the ground there. And as long as and I'm looking for a little movement, so I'm painting for the movement, I'm using a model, what we call a mottled brush. It's not mixed. The colors, lots of colors on it, and I'm changing those colors. So here I'm going to add a little bit more yellow and burnt sienna right in there, so I get a different kind of look there to that. Okay, and that'll pull out. Now they get the rocks as it comes out there get a bit darker, so let's grab some blue. Rocks are blue and burnt sienna here. So let's just grab some of those rocks right out here. Maybe a few rocks right against the edge of what's going to be the beach there. Okay. Matter of fact, we have that color with some burnt sienna. We might as well put that right in here as well. Bit of that darker, so darker will come forward here. Let's just grab some of this. See, it's all good mottled color right there. And we'll drop it right into the front part of this rock. Now it's a little mixed, so I'm going to get some green and yellow in there as well. There. So this is the shadow side and the light side. We'll work on that little guy a bit more here, but we're just getting big stuff in. Now, so I like that. We need to get some more, let's take, what did I do with this right there? Let's take some of our yellows, whites, bit of our violet. Like that violet right in there. I love those kinds of beach colors in there. Maybe a bit of our brighter yellow as well. All real good beach colors. And we'll start to push some of that right into that edge there of the green. So we'll come right into here. So I'm going to let these edges cross back and forth, and that's what's going to give you like all these little bushes and stuff along the edge of your your beach there. And I want to put in a little inlet river kind of thing there as well. So we'll drop some of that in, some of that beach here. Right in there like that. Just drop that in. Okay. Some of that back up here. And it gets real thick. I'll let it tack for just a bit so I can manipulate some more colors on there. So I'm going to want to work that several times. Let's take some light. And we'll push the lighter part. This is not done. This is just the second look. We're going to do it again. Here, we'll push a bit of light because I want a lot of interest on this beach up here in the front. So I'm going to do it several times with these colors here. Okay. A little bit of the grayed yellows there. There like that. That'll work here. And let's take a bit more light. Maybe a bit of our thicker yellow in the light here. Just so I like the edge of the palette knife there, the painting knife, but I also like the edge of the brush. And so when I paint edges, I like to do both so that I get a different look on each one here. So, and I'm going to work on those edges several times here on these edges. Back and forth till I get some nice crossing of some of those colors. And see, I like that kind of stuff right in there. That makes this real mystical kind of edge, you know. You can't really find it too much, and that just makes it look great, I think. All right, let's take a bit of this yellow and this light. Let's restate this right over here on this side of this one. Maybe a bit more of the yellow and light. I do like to work these beaches a couple times. Here. There we go. See, I like some of those colors, and then it goes right into that real nice beach there. We're going to do the same thing up here. Real nice. Get that beach color right in there. Okay, and to see that slope of your brush. Watch the angle and slope of your brush. Now, let's get some more of the color right up here. Let's thin this. We'll put it on a little thin. We'll go a bit of the violet into this blue so it gets real dark right up and through here. That's going to give us a lot of depth to our painting here. So you look at that and you go, whoa, that's pretty dark. Well, see, in my original one there, I went real dark right up there in the front. And dark colors advance, okay? So, you know, there's no worries. We're going to put some of this dark on right here. And the board that I prepped here, I prepped it with one coat of Canvas Prep Medium, which is basically a white, and then sanded it lightly. And so I could wipe like this through, see, and create some water interest back through there just by letting some of the, you know, this light color come through. So you don't have to use a whole bunch of paint. So that's one reason why I do it. But, you know, there's all kinds of other ways. Now I'm going to pick up just a bit of that burnt sienna, some of those other colors. See, right around your little island here, in actuality, the water would reflect some of the colors that are showing up in the painting, or that little rock that's right there by it. Water reflects. So you would pick up some of those colors. So I know it's hard to see, but there's a bit of those in there. And I do like to add some of those in and around the water that's in that area, because that's what happens in nature. Here. Now let's go over here. Let's lighten that up. Here. And we'll thin it again with some extender. And we'll pull some of this in. We'll streak some of this in, small movements though, small movements of your brush here. Don't work it too much. When you see the colors start to level out and start to become the same, get out of there, because you don't want it to stay the same. I'm just adding this in here for some movement. See the little movement that I'm making here, just like that. Okay. add a bit of that right along the what will be the shoreline there. Just pull some of that back there, okay, and let's add a little bit lighter. Come back up over here. I like that little bit of violet showing up in there as well. So a little bit of that violet showing up because it's in the sky. If it's in the sky, it would be in the water because water is really sky. There we go. So that gets that there. Okay. Now let's pick up some more white. This time I'm going to add the gel. You could also add this or Faux Medium. This will help slow it down. It'll also make it a little thicker now. See how it's thicker here? And this will come on right along, and I won't paint this too much. This will create some of the quick movement there of what is going to be the water hitting along the shoreline. I really need to put in the beach color back and forth back over here before I go too far. So I won't take that too far. See how thicker it is? When the paint's thick like that, see, it drags and leaves the movement. See the movement that I create there? So I don't want to do too much of it. You don't want to lose that movement here. But that's why you use the thicker paint and, you know, a more transparent paint. That's why you use that you know, gel medium and stuff like that. So you get that instant movement. Or Faux Medium, you get that instant movement, and then you can, you know, soften it from there. You can work those colors in. Let's get some of this yellow back up here. I'm just going to leave the blue in my brush. Get some of this yellow and stuff up there. We'll push some of this light right into that beach. A little bit of this beach right up here. A little bit more yellow. Get that beach. Pull those together. Pull the blue and the beach together here, because this is what's going to create that lovely movement, or the look of the water going in and out. Now sometimes I'll just pinch wipe my brush and I'll pull back out like that thicker yellow hitting some of that other thicker paint there. Kind of stops, kind of does what I want it to do there, and it's going to create a lot of this movement interest for us and stuff. I do like that bit with some rocks and stuff like that. Let's grab some of our burnt sienna blue. So I like that one that has some rocky little points out here. So I'll just push, see, and I'm painting with that 3/4. I'll be going down to my 1/2 inch here in just a bit, but see, I'll just create some of that rocky point interest right there. Some of that. Rocks along the beach here. Some interest. That looks good. There we go. Push that little beach there. Blue, burnt sienna. Model it on your brush here. There, we just leave some of that. See, you get this nice little rocky area there. And then we can come down with our green and yellow. You use a lot of paints, a lot of paint. Maybe a touch of white, some of the gel medium, a little burnt sienna. Don't mix it up too well. Here, pull that down. And we'll come again. So I'll get some of that. Now I'm going to take some of that, maybe right up in here as well. So I harmonize the two looks here. So that gets some of that coloring right up there. We've got to redo some of these, you know, yellow areas and stuff there. Some of that. Going to need to get some more yellow here. Make sure, see, I like this modeling of the color here. That gives you the sense that there's just a lot of bushes and stuff like that going on there without having to do too much there. Let's grab a little more color right out here, and we can get some lighter color cliff faces there, or edges here, right there, pulling down. We'll do this a couple times as well. Here. This is just your first one. I like to put on a lot of paint and grab that kind of movement and stuff, and then I will slowly come in and start to refine it and work it a little bit more. So now see, what I like to do is I'll take some of this nice light on the edge of my brush here. I'll come right up in here and pull out just a bit. Now there's a lot of paint on there, so it's a little wet. So if it doesn't stick, and it's not sticking real well, I'll let that's why I love acrylics. I'll let that tack up a bit here and come back and do it again. But that's going to start to create this beach here. So we want to have, this is a forward beach here now. So we're going to want to have a lot of this little tapped interest and stuff like that going on there, and then back down in here. So I'm going to drag this color out in, see, and just let it kind of die out into that blue, not in a straight line, but in some different areas, and that's going to create the translucency of the beach and the water. And then I'll come across here like this and start to add some more waves. So I might even take some of this blue, model it with a bit of the beach, blue and white here, like this. And I'll look up there at some of those waves, which I like. I really like that. We'll crash some of those right across here, like that, here. Let's grab a bit more white, maybe some of the gel. I'm using a lot of the gel today, but I could also use open medium or faux medium here. And we'll just grab some of that light. Let's put on a bit more here. Okay, so I'll grab some of that here, like that, and I like the unevenness of that. Let's put a touch or two right up in here. Right up in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my 1/2 inch brush here. I'll put a little blue, just a tiny bit of blue into my brush. And sometimes I'll pull out like this, which will pull the beach back out. Lift that off and pull the beach back out. And then sometimes, like I'll take a bit darker here, is I'll pull back up like this to remove some of the wave here. We'll just remove some of that wave here with the darker blue. So I'll pull up like this and push into the edge of that wave. Sometimes I'll right at the end, I'll push up just a bit to give it that arch, the crown of that wave, right like that, okay? So you can get that little bit of an arch if you want, push up and pull back to drag some of those waves back. All different kinds of ways. The most beautiful thing is, try not to do them all the same. Try to have, like here's a little darker blue that I'll take out just a bit of that, so I get some more color variation in there. The color variation is key to the interest of these here, just like that. See, so when you step back, you'll get some of those interests. Now I'm going to do that all throughout here. So I might take some of this. Let's thin this just a bit. So sometimes if I want to get over an area real quick, I'll thin my colors. But when I want to really build my waves, I'll leave my colors a little thicker. So there's some thin. And I can pull that, wipe my thumb here, pull that beach out. So I get that nice transparency here between my water and my edge. And it's uneven. See, it's not a line. It's uneven. That's what I'm looking for. And so then I can take my knife, or you've seen me use a brush. I do like that. Let's get some of that violet into this as well. That looks really nice. Let's grab a bit of this. We'll start back up ahead right out in here. We'll grab some of that So this is just another way I put some of this on. You see me do all different kinds of things. But the big thing is now that's more of a line. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back with some darker colors, some blue and stuff like that, and push in and out like this, sometimes pulling, sometimes pushing, and take some of that out so I create this interest. Now that's a perfect line there that I just might want to take some of that out. I love that little touch of violet in there. And I can even go more to a purer white, just use the edge of a brush. So I don't always use the knife. I'll use the brush too. It's this kind of difference that we do that's going to make the waves, that's going to make it more interesting. Let's take a bit of dark right in there, pull that out. Now see, if I get too much blue in there, I'll go to the beige color. And I'll pull the beige color out there, and see, that makes the wave look more transparent, see? That makes it look thinner. The dark makes it look like it's a deeper wave, and the thin there makes it look like it's, the yellows makes it look like it's a shallower wave there, because you're seeing more of the beige color. So I might want to put a bit more beige color right in there. Right there like that, so you see just the edge of the wave. A little crest of the wave there. Here, pulling back like that. It's all going to be good. You just don't want to make just rows all lined up like little soldiers. That's going to not be quite as interesting here. So I'll break some of those lines that I might develop there, and take some of your lighter color here and pull it out a little further, like here along the rocks. The rocks would get water really bubbly, so pull that out a little bit further. That's going to give you a lot of interest too. So just when I first started, I would make a lot of my waves and stuff like that just as lines. And especially since I'm a left brain painter. And so, you want to get some of that variation, the undulation and stuff that's going to make them look a bit prettier and more natural, because they're not all exactly the same there. So we'll just lift up and just create a bit of that movement there. Some of that we'll push some splashes up along those rocks, and I'll paint back. So I'm going to paint these edges. I'll go back and I'll paint back some of these edges as I do this, and I'll work some of my blues here right out into some of that. Right out, leave some of that little bit of light there. Push some of that blue in. Makes that nice bubbly water there. There, like that. Let's grab some of that right in here. So I'll get this nice, see, I love that thicker paint with the gel in there, so I get a little bit of transparency, but I get that movement that I like to have in and along that beach there. Okay, and I'm going to let that water kind of soften up. Well, let's take just a bit more darker blue right in here. So if you really want to soften it out, thin your paints. If you want to get a lot of interest to it, thicken your paints. And that's what I play with, back and forth. I'm going to take a bit more of my beige color here, right out through there. We go take some of that out there, so you get that. See, I like that. And then I'll come back, actually a smaller brush than this, but I will, and I'll just put on like little edges of light here, the little foamy edges there through that, and that's what gives you some of its pretty interest to it. But I've got a lot to do here. Back up this way, pulling this in. See that nice beach color? I'll paint that right up to the edge of these rocks there. And we can even let some of that bubbly come all the way up towards that rocks. There. Like that. That's looking pretty good. Put in some more powerful. I'm going to have to get out some more yellow oxide. Might even have to thicken some out. Let's see if I can get through with just some of this lighter color. Now see that? See how this, right in there, starting to tack up a bit. So now I can lay in this next bit of color and see the interest that comes here. Bit more interest, and I can really set a nice powerful line here, which will help the viewer see the slope of the beach there, just like that. And so you work it a couple times, and the second time you work through something, you get even more interest to it, see? So I'll leave some of that little fracture mark there, but I want to take some of this right up to the edge there and pull that slope of the beach there, like that. Sometimes you see that, you know, there'll be other ones that you'll see me do it all with the palette knife or with the paint scraper. I do a lot of this kind of stuff normally with the paint scraper, but I'm just kind of enjoying the brush right now. But I do a lot of it with the paint scraper as well. So I get some of this. See, that's what I'm looking for, some of that interest and stuff that I'm going to put around there. And I'll take some of this color as well. We got to go, because we haven't worked on these hills back up here too much. So we've got to get some of that, and I want to leave some of that broken lines, and I want some of this green to come out here as well. So what I'm going to do is do what I call fracture these lines, so that, because it'll make it look like the sandy little parts of the beach here. So I'll leave some of that fracturing there, so it's not a straight line, see? And let's put a bit of yellow and a bit of burnt sienna, a little different. We'll come through and break up some of these areas here. There, like that. And of course, do it several times, but with lots of color. But that will, and then we'll come back with the greens and stuff like that, and that will create some of these little areas of sand coming through those areas. And I'll take my burnt sienna, my green, my yellow here, and we'll paint up to those edges, cross those edges a bit, following that same kind of slope. See, it's edges, working those edges, and that incorporates that sand into the edge of the painting there. Slightly different colors than I had before. There, so I work that in. So I work this back and forth, and you know, I may do this 3 or 4 times till I get the right look of those incorporating in. And it's an optical thing. Up close here you go, wow, Dave, you really don't know how to paint. But back there, it looks pretty good. When you get back like that, you go, wow, that's not so bad. That's coming right along, you know. And so it's an optical thing. Optical is, you know, it blends over distance. So we paint it for it to be watched, looked at over a distance. Let's put a bit of that sand right out here, maybe up here a bit, like that. So I'll be tapping those edges, looking at those edges, tapping those edges. You know, maybe I want to have some more of that sand coming, you know, this look. Yeah, it just kind of comes all along through here. We'll break this up. You know how you get along the beaches and stuff? Especially you down in Australia. I used to always vacation, my wife and I, for many years. About 12 years in a row, go down to Australia every year to vacation. And up into north of Sydney, and beautiful beaches up there, up around Shoal Bay. Just loved it. And so start to break that up. But you get all these, there you get all these bushes going right into beach sand. And so you start seeing some of that. Well, right out here at Point Sur, it has the same thing. Here, little beaches. Maybe some pull down for a little cliff edge there, something like that. So you just start working these edges. Grab yourself something nice to drink, put on some music, and just sit here and start working some of these edges. And watch the angle of your brush. You create a cliff pulling down. So maybe even take like a little rocky color, blue and some burnt sienna, and create like a little rocky edge there, more of a vertical there. And some of those right in there. Let's create some. And so on this painting, I'll do this probably for a good hour or so, doing nothing but this, working along, breaking some of those edges. So I create this. This is what I'm looking for, those broken colors of edges. Maybe a touch of green right up here. See, that just adds. I'm using the colors of my composition and just adding some interest here. Right in there like that. Break those edges. There's some like little trees and stuff up there. You can, push up and create rocks and trees and stuff like that there along some of the edges. So you can make more like the Oregon coastline and put trees up along the edge there. So it's just a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is take a few minutes and work through and basically just repeat all of this, which is going to add more interest, tapping through. Then I'll come back with you guys and I'll show you some of the finishing stuff up here, okay? So, as I work through this, if I want to thin something, I usually go to the extender. If I want to, so I usually will put on something thin and then I'll put that thicker color in to work it into. Okay, so as I work this again, that's what I'll be doing. If I want to really get a lot of interest to stuff, I'll either use the gel or the open medium there, or the faux medium. You can go to that. There's all different kinds of mediums that have all different kinds of feelings for you into your brush, and you can control that. Okay. All right. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to come back. I'll be tapping in some little areas, little rocks, little things. I'll probably maybe even, I'll show you guys, but I'll probably might even go down to my 8 or a 10 and do some of the small work with that, okay? All right, and I'll see you guys back here in just a minute. Hi everyone, welcome back. So, I went through here again. I'll probably go through one more time in some of here. Some of you saw me, lift off some of the waves in here. I want to build this up a little bit more. But I've just been going through and adding some, additional lights. And see, this is what you want to get that kind of fracturing here. It looks really great when you step back at that camera there. It looks very realistic. And what I do is I pull really slow. You want to, hold the brush very flat, pull really slow, let that fracturing edge get there. Then pull through with a slightly different color. Here I'm just adding some little light planes here. I'll turn this over a little bit more paint. And I pull really slow so I get some of those fracturing there. I can blur it off a bit if I want. But that gives just a little bit of a light plane there and then a shadow plane and little touches of light. That's what I'll start to add in just a few edges. Now, you got to remember acrylics will dry down, so that might look like a lot, but it will dry down. So I'll add just a few little sparks of life and interest and stuff through there. Maybe a little broken plane. You can, like I said, you could add trees along this line, whatever you want to do. Maybe a bit of a light plane right in there, onto that right before our really tiny little lighthouse. You see there, but that's the thing is you don't want to go in there and make anything perfect. This is impressionism, of it. Maybe a bit of that green right up through here, just a little mark on the light side, so light is coming through here and hitting this way. And I put this large piece, and now you can see some of the textures that are coming in here. And this is where I like that broken edge, and this is where I can take even that light little green and just break just a little bit, pull real slow, and you see you add just a touch of that color in there, and that's the impression of them. Gives a touch of a broken edge, gets that back and forth. I also added a little blue for that little river thing there. It's a little different on my other ones, but this does look like the Point Sur. Does look like the, it captures the feeling of some of those other ones there. So I'll probably come back in through here again with some blues, right back in. I'll let this tack up just a bit. So, I don't like it to be too wet, and just start adding little sparks, here's a little sparks of the light color, and then I'll take a slightly darker color and paint that back out right through there. You can add some of those mediums, which gives you different translucencies and transparencies, and it just looks a lot of fun that way. I think, I'm not real sure. I don't think but I'll show you here. I was going to show you. Let me take a little bit of the Faux Medium. This is it's a great medium. You could use some of the other mediums too. But what you need to do, as an artist, this system is, really you can do a lot of things because there's a lot of mediums that let it change to do a lot what you want to do. So I take the Faux Medium, and let's just add just a tiny bit of the blue into that. Faux Medium and some white here. And about an equal amount of Faux Medium is going to give you this transparency here. And see, and it's beautiful. And your brush slides so very nice. We can build a little bit more clouds right up here. So I'm not using pure white. And as a matter of fact, I have a dirty brush from some of my composition. And that just adds some nice coloring in there. Let's put a wispy here. So I have some other seascapes on. Look at that nice wispy cloud, just like that. See, I have some other seascapes on the channel. Quite a few other seascapes on the channel for those of you that want to watch it. And then one of them is just painted with the Faux Medium. You see the waves and all that kind of stuff with it. So all the mediums are there. Now I might. One way to advance something is to really get that light contrast there. So let's put that looks kind of neat, this light cloud right back behind this, and then we'll just whisper up the edges. See, all I'm using is blue, white, a little blue, and Faux Medium, and over what I have already, seeing it creates that interest, that movement there. Let's put just a little heavier white right down here. I like to do that sometimes in my paintings because it really will push that mountain here towards you just a bit. Gives a nice look. Maybe a whisper of that right along the horizon line there. That makes it look like distance. I lived on the California coast for 20 years, and our house looked out over the sea, out of the way out to sea. We were on a bluff and used to see these clouds way back there into the distance like that. And that looks kind of cool. All different kinds of ways, and that faux medium is great for it because it just automatically gives you that translucency and, you know, a little bit of high and low, which is what you look for, and that translucency is just wonderful. Let's put just a touch of that right up here, so we get just that edge coming forward there. That's pretty neat. Let's just whisper up that edge. See, that works really well. It's a lot of fun. A little foggy, all that kind of stuff. But a little bit more work. I'll do a little bit more work into that. I'll put the those of you that are in the memberships, I'll put the reference photos that I use here. I'll even give you a nice photo of the one I painted over here on the 11 by 14 that you can you know, try if you want to go ahead and try that one as well, okay? And it's just a heck of a lot of fun. I'll probably do a little bit more up into there. I'll put a photo of it as I have here, and then I'll try to get a photo when it's all done. But I want to, this is going to be a sold painting, so I want to put some more work into it and some more details to it. And that's going to take a little more time than what we have. But there's some quick techniques for you, give you some ideas, okay? And you know, I hope you enjoy it. We're going to go back to, we'll do some more landscapes, more florals, and I have quite a few more requests for birds and stuff. And like I told you with the last one, I want to do that set of Canadian geese flying and some trees and stuff into the background. A little kind of misty, but concentrate in on the Canadian geese. Lots of requests. Thank you for all your requests. Keep those coming. You have questions, go ahead and write, you know, and ask those questions down in the comments, and I'll try to get to those. And if something you want to see, go and make that request. And like I said before, you have to sometimes request it a couple of times because I forget that because I'm an artist. I forget that. Okay. All right. Make sure you click that like button, guys. That really helps us out. Click that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. And those in the memberships, I'll get this stuff up just as soon as I can. All right. Thanks a lot for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the next one.